Good evening, everyone. Welcome to this Titan Professional webinar called 3 Summer Fire Block Mistakes. My name is Samuel, and I will be walking you through this webinar, basically just going over the common mistakes that a lot of installation crews end up making every summer. And so hopefully you can kind of have some key takeaways that will help your experience using our fire block foams. So we'll look at, you will get a training certificate for those attending live. We'll look at that briefly. We'll look at, and then in the webinar, we'll look at a couple of those key mistakes, the fire block versus fire stop question. Using the wrong foams overall is a big problem. And then using the wrong formulas depending on the sort of environment that you're in during the summer. Yeah, and then we'll look at kind of where to find us in some of our other videos. So there's the certificate looks like this. You'll see it's got my name and information down there. And then it's an official Titan Professional webinar. So you'll get a training certificate for attending. So just a brief overview, fire block foams, these are the different types of fire block foam that we have in our Titan Professional portfolio. One that we call Fire Block Extreme and the other one we call Fire Block 113. They are both draft stopping foam sealants, and they are typically required by the residential building code, basically to stop draft air from fueling the fire from room to room. Our fire block foams have the UL and ICC testing that's required. It is an orange foam. You can see what it looks like in that picture. That's a picture that I took at a job site one time. And you can see that it's used to kind of fill that gap that would be left around the that pipe penetration. And our fire block foams fill gaps up to 3 inches. And like I mentioned, they are draft stopping foam sealants. And so we have a couple versions based on different environments, which we'll get into more. And then the two on the left are the gun grade versions that are typically used by professionals. And then we have a straw grade that's available for DIY folks. So getting into the mistakes, one of the main mistakes is fire block versus fire stop. You can see 2 different pictures on the screen. One that is an example of fire block. Again, this is one I took at a job site. And then an example of fire stop. And they are similar in concept, but they serve very different purposes and are very different chemicals. And mixing the 2 up is quite a mistake. And so this is one of the key mistakes. So some of the common misunderstandings that people have, and I get phone calls from contractors all around the country that call in with some of these questions. And when they start asking these questions, I can tell they have they're making this mistake. Some people will ask, what is the hour rating of your fire block? Will this stop the fire? What temperature fire will it stop? And will it stop flames? And so these questions basically tell me that you're asking me about Titan fire block, but actually you're asking about fire stop, or the inspector or somebody's telling you to use fire stop instead. And so that's kind of what these questions indicate to me. And so I've put together 3 facts for each that help you understand the difference. And we do have a video on our YouTube channel that goes into this even more in depth, which I would recommend, called Fire Block versus Fire Stop. So fire stop is typically red. And there are exceptions to this, but vast majority of fire stop is red. You can see on the right side down there on the bottom right, you can see that red material that's going around that electrical penetration. Fire stop stops a fire for a certain amount of time. And so typically it's a hour rating. Again, at that top question, what is the hour rating of your fire block? So fire stop actually has this rating. It may be 1 hour, maybe 3 hours. It depends on the material and the penetration and everything. But it has some sort of hour rating where it's guaranteeing that it will stop that fire from spreading through that penetration for some amount of time. Fire stop is typically used in commercial construction. So like right now, I'm in our Titan Professional office in Fort Worth, Texas, and this building has fire stop in it. I've seen them working on some of the ceilings. And so that's in a more commercial setting, that's typically what's required for commercial building code. Fire block, on again, that top picture is orange. This is some of our Titan fire block being used at a job site. You can see that it's where it's being used, and it's orange to help indicate to the inspector that it's the right material. Fire block is a draft stopping foam sealant. You heard me use this word earlier, draft stopping, that prevents oxygen from fueling the fire. So it's meant to stop the draft air, draft stopping, because that fire needs that air to fuel the fire. Fire block is typically used in residential construction. So our ICC ESR report kind of details this a lot further, which you could look at if you were interested. But it's used in residential construction, the vast majority. Once you get into commercial construction, like I mentioned, our office building that I'm in, you get more of the fire stop. Mistake number 2. So again, that's mistake number 1, misunderstanding the difference between fire block and fire stop. And then mistake number 2, more of an application mistake, is just using the wrong foam. So you can see in that top picture, somebody is using fire block foam to go around a window. In the bottom picture, you can see I'm using our window and door foam to go around the window. And so that's what this is not quite our recommendation, using fire block around the windows. So again, a common mistake, using fire block foam around the windows. Using general purpose foam for fire block is kind of another mistake, where it's not orange, it doesn't have the ICC UL testing, it's just some sort of gap filler foam. That won't pass the inspection. So that'll be a problem. And then using fire block that is missing the building code approvals. I see this all the time, where installation crews make these mistakes. It's painful because you end up having to rip the foam out. Obviously, that you're going to lose money on the job and all that stuff. So that's not good. So again, understanding the difference. Window and door foam. So this is what we recommend using around the windows, is window foam, because it is low expansion. It will not bow the windows. So you can see that foam going around a window on the bottom picture. If you used a high expansion foam, like fire block is typically at a higher expansion than window foam, because you want to fill those gaps around the like we saw that one that was around a pipe penetration. You want to fill that gap completely and not leave any room. And you're not really worried about over expansion in that way. You just want it to expand. With the window foam, you want to be a little more, again, you want it to be a little more dialed in. And so mixing these up is a problem. So the window foam has what we call no bow technology. It won't bow the windows. Some people call this hourglassing the windows, because you can imagine an hourglass shape. This would not be good for a window that you probably want to open and close. And then it is AAMA approved. That's a Window Manufacturer Association, tests our foams. So that's some of the difference. So you could end up using the wrong foam. You know, you may be doing a fire blocking job, filling up all the annular spaces, and oh, well, we've got an extra can of window foam in the truck. Let me just run in and grab that. That is a mistake. So I'm hoping you take that away from this webinar. Mistake number 3 is using limited formulas. So you can see I put some pictures in here to show kind of the summer heat or low humidity environments. Where I live in Fort Worth, Texas, we experience both of those, where it can be low humidity or high summer heat. So if you pick the wrong formula, you could have a problem. So trying to use a limited formula in the summer heat, it can actually melt. A lot of these foams are rated, or they are designed to work between 41, 86 degrees or so. And if you go higher than that mid 80s degrees Fahrenheit, if you go outside of that, you can actually start to have a problem. And so if you're gonna be in the summer heat, you need to use something designed for the summer heat. Low humidity and desert environments lead to the foam not curing properly. One thing that a lot of people don't understand about these foams is that they cure through the humidity in the air. And so when there's very little humidity in the air, you may have a problem with that foam curing. So consider our Titan Professional Fireblock 113 is designed for these environments. And so if it's July in West Texas, you probably want to use the 113. The other formula is better for lower temperature environments. So that's one of the mistakes, again, is not considering the environment when you're using one of these foams, because again, it is a chemical reaction happening and you want the environment to be right for the curing. And so again, we have a couple versions of this, the Fireblock Extreme and the Fireblock 113. The Extreme is for temperatures like from -4 to 100 degrees. And so if it's in the 90s, that would probably work just fine. But if it's especially dry, even if it's in the 90s, if it's especially dry, like you're in Arizona, or like I mentioned, West Texas, or maybe some parts of California or something, where it gets quite dry, you need to consider using the 113 formula is what we would recommend. Again, they all do have the codes, the building codes, the ICC ESR report, the UL report, the ASTM, etc., that are required for that code. And they're all orange for easy inspection. So when the inspector is walking through doing the pre-drywall inspection, you can trust that they will get the approval. And then they do fill gaps up to 3 inches. Some of my competitors only fill gaps up to 2 inches. So that's something to consider, especially when you're filling big gaps like that one in the picture with a pipe penetration. You want it to be able to fill the whole thing. And then they all are certified draft stopping foam sealants according to residential building code. So I do recommend you check out our YouTube channel. You can find a lot of this other content. I'll upload this webinar to YouTube, for example. We have an Instagram, Facebook page. Follow us on there for more information like this that's application related or common mistakes that some people might make. And so I appreciate everybody that joined the webinar live. Thank you. And I hope you have a good evening, and thanks for watching the video.